Hi, and welcome to Animate CIS 120 DC. I'm Dr. Storsley, and I'll be your instructor for this class. I need to tell you the best way to get a hold of me is using my email address. Obviously, with COVID, I'm not in my office very often. So, this information is a little outdated because I haven't updated it for this class yet. I'm just in the process of creating new videos so that you have something to use as a resource. Which, speaking of, one of the first assignments you're going to do is a resource assignment. I have all the assignments here listed, and then I've got a little bit more information. All you have to do is click on this. I will also have some of the same information in Canvas. If, God forbid, and there probably will be, a difference between Canvas and what I have here on this page, always go with the latest, and I will never ding you for that. Which also brings up another point. In times as crazy like this, we need to keep in touch with each other. And what I mean by that is, if you're having problems, please feel free to contact me. And also, if you fall behind and you need help, please contact me with that, because I am more than happy to find a way to help you, whether it be through Zoom or whatever platform we end up using for the semester. Probably going to use Google Hangouts because it's been really successful and haven't had too many problems with it. And they don't have some of the same security issues that Zoom has. But each one of these assignments, like I said, is going to build a portfolio, something that you can show a potential employer. So that's why I do it. And believe me, the only way to do and to learn this material is by doing. The only way to do. That was a bad one. Oh, here we go. Note 1. Let's talk about that. First of all, you need to be reading your book. Do you absolutely 100% have to have a book? No, I can't say that. There's a lot of information out there in the World Wide Web, but the problem is it's not really well organized. And the book I'm using is usually pretty up to date since it's Adobe that's putting it out. The other thing I want you to do is there's some supplemental videos, especially this one for this week, the 5 different types of animation. It's going to go through and save you a lot of time. I'm not going to cover that in my little intro, which, by the way, this intro is going to be sitting right here. And any other additional notes will have a animation page like this, video page like this that says animate. So definitely I would recommend taking a peek at this. This is something that Adobe put together. It's a good intro. This is kind of interesting. Cartoons made with Flash. I also have found out that it's actually Animate nowadays. But Animate/Flash has been used to create award-winning, Pulitzer Prize award-winning videos, which I thought was really kind of cool. And it kind of makes me a little upset because I had an idea about that, and son of a gun, I did not follow through. You know, it's one of those things I need to get my act together a little bit better. The first homework assignment you're going to post on Canvas is going to be under discussions. It's going to be called resources. It's I want you to go out and find material that's going to help you learn. I have a certain style and I have a certain way of doing things, and I also have some videos that might help you. But there are a lot of examples and other YouTube channels and stuff with Adobe that will help you learn this material if you are not getting what you need out of my class. So there's plenty of opportunities, and I will be more than happy to direct you with that. And like I said before, if you are falling behind, please contact me and we'll do the best we can to get you back up to speed. Also, I'm trying to find a tutor that will be available online to teach this class. So we're going to cross our fingers. The one thing you should know about any one of my classes is there is a very steep learning curve. There's a lot of material you got to master in order to be able to get going with this class. And like I said before, the only way is to do it and to try it and to make plenty of mistakes. Don't worry about making those things. I make them all the time, even though I've been playing with this for literally 27 years now, which is kind of hard to believe. Ever since I started getting on the internet in 1993 did I learn about Flash, although it was called Splash back then, and now it's called Animate. So it's had a rich history of names. And don't get me started as to why they had to change it from Flash to Animate, because Adobe really dropped the ball on that, which made me sad. Like I said, steep learning curve, so definitely keep an eye out with that. I don't know what the lab, if I'm going to be able to do lab hours or not. I kind of hope so, but my guess is right now, probably not. So I apologize for that, but we'll find out. I have not made a decision yet, and neither has the college, about what kind of flexibility we are with utilizing resources. Also, I will probably be doing another video about how to download Animate, because we're currently working on getting that for you at home use, since we won't be having physical classes. So that's actually kind of exciting. So now let's get to Animate. Now I'm a little bit disappointed in Animate to start off with. First of all, I'm used to a different interface, which that comes and goes. But the fact that the background colors they have chosen in the preference levels are either really dark or really light and nothing in between. And I really need the in between, which is kind of sad. But if you want to play around with the setup, what you can do is you can go Edit Preferences, Edit Preferences. And what I mean by that is they used to have something that was in between this dark and this light. This light is literally too light for me to be able to see some of the marking lines of the frames. So I'm a little sad about that, but I'll see if I can find some other cool things that will allow me to change that. And these are all the different settings. And then you have a code editor, which we will barely touch on. We'll talk about script files. We'll talk about compiling a little teeny bit, and talk about drawing. So this is just the general interface. Also notice that I don't do a lot of saving. I should, but I'm pretty good at it nowadays. However, I would recommend that you save it quite a bit. Also, you have the ability to go back. If you make a mistake, you can jump back. Well, the current setting right here is 100, and if I wanted to, I can change it to even more, which is really kind of cool. So I've got the preferences. Well, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to full HD. Now, one of the things that I did do is I went to Edit, Preference, and I went Beginner Preferences. So that's why it looks sort of like this. I also had the workflow set up, and now it's not working again. Oh man, I cannot believe you're going to do that to me. There should be a way, this is being really a pest, of, let me try another preference, see if I can get it back to working. Expert. No. I should be able to change the setup here, and it's not letting me do that. That's really annoying. I'm going to drag this up there and see if it'll let me change it now. Nope. Well, if you have that issue, it sometimes occurs with me and sometimes it doesn't. It didn't earlier, and I was like, oh, I must have been doing something wrong, and now it's back to not behaving, which is really annoying. That's one of the things that Adobe does that's really bad, is they let us be the beta testers. And so then they're relying on us to give them feedback about their product. And believe me, I'm going to rip them a new rear on this one, because these lines are too hard, too light to see. So I'm going to come back here to Edit Preferences, Beginner Preferences. Will it work now? Nope. Had to try. Well, each one of these little squares is a frame. And you know what? I think I'm going to have to change that preference again. It's just too... I'm going to edit the preferences, and it's just too light. I don't like dark, because I'm old and gray and my eyes don't work so well, but I can't see the light either. Uh-oh. Hi gang, I just discovered a major glitch that Adobe has. That is so bizarre. The reason I was having so many problems bringing up the different workspaces is it won't work on my smaller monitor. That is definitely a first for me, so I want to show you how to get to that workspace setup. To be honest with you, I like classic. Come on, there we go. Setup. I still like the beginner's preference, and we'll move to the more advanced later, but this is really pretty decent. I got the dock set up right here. Now, some things that I want to point out is some of the differences you can do with, I could be, moving around using my scroll, and if you notice right here, I can just move it up and down. But let's say I've been known to have this happen to me. I get lost. I have so much space here, and I cannot find where my stage is. What I'll also have to do is click on this one and center the stage. That is one of the nicer features that they added recently. Now, if I want, I can actually rotate my screen like that. That's another one that's relatively new. And I do a horrible job of rotating it. So I'm just going to do, it's not going to let me control Z it either, are they? Let's see that. There we go. It looks to be even. I'm not 100% sure of that. But we have all sorts of different information right over here. We got some more settings hiding under there, popping up. So you can, do I want to loop the timeline? No, I don't really want to do that. That's for the publishing settings, so we're not going to worry about too much right now. But what I want you to do is, there's another thing, is one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is trying to draw something like this and then editing it when it would be so much easier to edit it if you blew it up a little bit and got in closer. Or you have a graphic, and that's where this is an extremely good tool. Oops, that's as far as I can do. That's the magnifying glass. I can hit the Alt key and go and click again. So I'm still holding the Alt key and making it smaller, smaller, smaller. I'm going to go here. Now this is another nice feature, is fit in window. There we go. It's 132%. Or I could do 100%, which is right there. I typically like to fit it in the window, although if you're going to be bringing in objects off of the stage and into the stage, it might make a difference. Now this is a feature that I really truly like about the beginner mode, is notice that I've got an object here, and then I'm going to come over here and use my paintbrush. One of the biggest mistakes you're going to make is you're going to be adding something to the wrong layer. I wanted to add another layer here and I forgot, shame on me. I accidentally added it to this layer, so it's giving me a visual representation of the mistake that I've made. So I can very easily do Control Z and it goes back. And how I add another layer is I click right there. Now one of the habits you really need to get into is, if you notice I clicked right here and double clicked, and I'm going to call this red box. I'm old, so I just was thinking of Red Fox, who was a great comedian. And then I'm just going to call this paint. Now the reason I recommend you do this is typically not in this class you're going to have an issue with too many layers, but once you get proficient at this, you may have tons and tons of layers, and it's just extremely hard to remember which layer is what and what's the object on that. So if you have a little paint right there, it's a clue to you to remember what's going on. Now let's talk about some of this, because I love playing around with this. When I was first starting out, I didn't use the lock layer too much, and I ruined the layout that I had on numerous occasions. Now I love this next one. I call it the evil eye, but it's actually the show hide. And then another mistake, and I'm going to switch to this layer. How do I know it's this layer? It's highlighted there. And then typically you'll see a visual clue right there that's layer. Well, since it's locked, don't get it. But let me blow that up just a little bit more. go. Notice that I clicked on it, I get these polka dots. That means it's actually two objects, which is, it looks like one. It's a fill and a stroke. So I actually have the stroke, and I can modify the stroke, and then I can also come over here and modify the fill if I wanted to. So that it's actually two objects until I group them together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control Z a couple times, get it back to there. And then what I would like to do is I like to select it all like that, and then I have the ability to turn it into an object. So, you know, it treats it as one. So now it is no longer, and please don't make a liar out of me. There we go. It's no longer a fill and a stroke. It's an object with a fill and a stroke. It's not two separate objects. It's now one, and that's a major distinction. Now, one of the other mistakes that you're going to make, and I still do it on occasion when I'm not paying attention, is I accidentally click on this box and then I wonder what happened to my object. Well, if you notice, it's a blue outline. That's my object. And I am going to come back here. I'm going to try to move it. Will it let me move it? Nope. Will it let me rotate it? Nope. What I can do is, if I want to manipulate it, I come back here and then I can move it. And I can rotate it and manipulate it like that. And if you notice, I'm using a different tool. This is the Move tool. And then this is the Transform tool, which notice that when I get these selection handles, that allows me to manipulate that. I've got the Lasso tool, which is a really cool tool for selecting things. And then there's some more. If you notice, there's a little teeny triangle. That means, hey, there's more down there below. These are some different tools that allows you to select it. Like, I could never figure out why they stuck the gradient tool underneath the free transform tool, but they did. I wish they would have done it sort of like they did with the in Photoshop. And then I've got the selection tool. I right click there, or the sub-selection tool. And then we have our quick keys. So if I wanted to use a V, hit a V or an A, it will automatically bring that tool up. Now you'll notice that I don't use that a whole lot, because what typically happens with me is I tend to get Photoshop, Illustrator, and Animate confused. And believe it or not, you would think they would have all the same quick keys, but they don't. So it's really, really disparaging using the wrong key, and I don't want to make myself look like a fool, which is easy to do, unfortunately. So now I've got my symbol. I click on it. If I ever want to edit that symbol, I've got that little there. If I created that as a symbol, it'll allow me to edit it. Paint, my eraser tool, my rectangle tool, line tool, pen tool. If you get really good at this, you can make some really interesting shapes. Our text tool, and I've got my text. And one of the things you're going to notice is as I click on some of these objects, they will change, or tools, not objects. These tools, they will come over here, and I can make it a static text or dynamic text, and we'll talk about the differences of that later. And then this is the dimensions that it has for that text. Now I have typically a regular one, but I can make it a bold. And the nice thing about this is it shows you a quick and dirty sample of what's going on. Very nice feature. Paint bucket tool, like I said, this is where I wish they would put the gradient tool, but they don't for some weird reason. Although I can kind of understand this, because what they're doing is, and let me add another layer, and I'll show you this one real quick. Add another layer. Oh, it's hiding it, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to grab this panel. Nope, can't find where to grab. That's the one reason I didn't want to switch to this, is because I cannot see where to grab. Really kind of discouraging there. Let's see. Let's go back to basic. Nope. Let's go essentials. Ooh, I actually kind of like essentials. The only problem is, where is my timeline? That is ridiculous not having timelines. So I'm going to have to come up here. And this is actually a good thing to have happen. Is I can come, oh, I know where the timeline is. It's on my other window. There we go. Now what I was trying to show you, but I couldn't see because I'm old and gray and my eyes don't work so well, is if you grab right up here, you should be able to move this panel around anywhere you want. Same way with this. I can grab, oh, you're going to make a liar out of me, aren't you? Yeah, you can grab those panels. Come on, properties. There we go. I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time because I can't see it. It used to be a little distinction here. When we had gray, it was really obvious. I cannot see, maybe it's because I'm mildly colorblind, but that's where it is, and you can grab these panels. Now, since I have two monitors, what I typically do is I have this as be my main development area, and then I stick the panels off to a sub monitor, and then that way I have everything, quick and handy access to that. And after I do this and I get it all set up, and then I don't like that arrangement or the workflow is not really good, I can come back here and reset it. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Reset it. Bingo. There we go. So any one of these panels you can bring out to the side and play with it. It's a really nice way of doing things. Now I've got 400%. Man, oh man, that is way too much. I'm going to jump back to 100%. And then I just want to center it again, so that's nice. So now I can see it a little bit better on this one. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's Adobe, sometimes they make changes for the sake of changes, and it's like, really, why are you doing that? And the fact that they changed the shading so it's either really dark or really light is beyond me. They used to have a nice in between that made it so much easier for me to see what's going on. Now, once we're done with all our objects, what we can do is we can go File, Save, which we should do on a regular basis. Shame on me for not doing that. And I'm just going to call this one Note 1 Play. And I save it. Now, the thing that we're going to be doing a lot of is we're going to be exporting it. So we're going to go File, Export. Now we can export an image. We can export a movie. We can export video or an animated GIF. Now I'm debating about what I'm going to have you do. I'm leaning towards an animated GIF, although the file size is ridiculous. I know I will have you do at least one animated GIF and at least one movie, but I'm still contemplating my navel. So please pay attention to the actual homework that's linked off of the page so that I can show you what to do. Now another thing is, if we're doing an animation, and we're real static right here. Once we've done that, what we can do is we can go to Publish Settings and tell it how we want it to go. Well, this video is snake bit because what happened was I had a allergy attack, and so I hit it on pause and then I hit the wrong key to restart, and so I ended up breaking it up into another video. What I was trying to get to here is we're going to publish an animation, but we don't have an animation yet. So I really need to talk about that before I hit this good old publish button, but that's how you do it. So I'm going to hit cancel. And I am going to grab our timeline, bring it up here, and I'm going to bring this down here. And I got quite a few frames, so this is kind of a good thing because what I'm going to show you is I got this frame that's blank and this frame that's blank. I can select both of those and hold down my shift key and I can hit delete, and away she goes. And same thing with this. I used it, I'm happy with it, I don't like it anymore for some weird reason, so I'm going to hit delete. That layer goes away. So now all I have is my red box layer. Now the way animation works is it tricks your eye. You're going to have several frames that go very fast that gives the illusion of movement. And it just so happens that the setting that I have for this video is it's going to require 24 frames for a second of animation. Now TV, depending on what resolution you have, can be anywhere from 24 to 32. Typically I always plan for 32 if I'm doing real HD video, but right now we're just going to deal with 24. And it's just a function of how choppy it's going to be. So right now I have what we call a keyframe right there, and I am going to come over here to frame 7, and I could go insert. Oh, no. Oh, there it is. Timeline. I was right the first time. Keyframe. And so what that keyframe signifies is a change in that timeline. Or technically, it should signify a change in timeline. It doesn't have to. So now I'm going to come over here to frame 8, and no, that's not frame 8. That was frame 8. I'm talking frame 13. I'm going to hit F6 on my keyboard. Now the F6 key does the same thing. That's one of the few that I do memorize because I use it so often. And I'm going to do another F6. And I'm going to move it down there. Another one of the quick keys that I use quite frequently is the F5, because what that does is it adds frames into the animation. It doesn't add keyframes, but frames. And each one of these little gray areas is a frame. When you get to this point right here, there are no gray frames, and so the animation on that layer stops. And that's a very important concept, because if I have another layer that keeps on going, the object on here will disappear, and then the other layer will keep on going. So now let's take a peek at this, and I'm just going to hit the play button right here, or I can just hit enter, and I like hitting enter much better, so I click right there. And I got my cool little animation. Hit enter again. Now, I thought I died and went to heaven when I saw that. But what I'm going to show you next is something even more powerful. Is I'm going to click somewhere in between these two keyframes, and then I'm going to right click and create a classic tween. And now it's going to say, hey, it's not a symbol. Well, do you want me to convert it to that? Yes. Now, normally I would do it once and then all these others, but I'm going to have to do it probably several times. So I'm going to come over here, right click, classic tween. Yep. That's because when I first set this up, each one of these is not a symbol, so I have to do it one at a time, which is kind of painful. So if you do it first time here and then you add a keyframe, you won't have to keep doing that. But now watch this animation. It'll drastically change. So hit enter. The tweening is what they call it. It figures out where that frame position should be and places the box there to give you as best of a motion as it can. Now the thing you got to understand is this is less than 1 second. So that's why it's so fast and so jittery. If I click right in here and hit F5 several times, notice how I'm adding frames to that so it won't be as jittery. Click right in there, add some more. Now I've lost track of my my objects. So what I can do is I can come back over here and I can resize the timeline and bring it back and click right in there, hit F5 a few times, and I should be done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come all the way back over here. Oops. And I'm going to hit play. Still a lot of movement for just 1 second. And it's kind of choppy, I thought. So we'll play around with that later. I actually don't like that very much. It seems like it's much more choppier than it was before. So we'll have to play with some of the easing on that to make it a little bit smoother. But that's what I wanted to show you today. The #1 assignment that you have to do is find some additional resources. Now I'm done with that. And you'll be posting this on Canvas. And remember, it can be anything. It could be a TV show that talks about animation. It could be a video on YouTube that talks about animation, or talks about Flash, or talks about or Animate, or talks about some of the other topics that we'll be covering. It's to help you. It's not for me. I've probably seen the vast majority of them. Although, lately, there's been some new websites that have been cropping up that I haven't caught on to. And a couple people got some extra credit because I thought, wow, that's a cool site. I'll start using that. So that's what I wanted you to do. Make sure you post that on Canvas. Also, this is a little tidbit. I need you to, by the next week, post your intro, because if you don't post your intro, I have to drop you from class. This isn't, believe it or not, this is not a college requirement. It's not a district requirement. It's something that's sprouted up from the VA office because we've had a few people that have been abusing their privilege of free education and living expenses. And so they sign up for a class, show up for 1 week, and then don't do anything. And so what we have to do is we have to immediately drop you. So after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of inaction, I guarantee you I will drop you unless you contact me and set up arrangements. That's not because I want to be mean. It's because our college got slapped with some huge fines from the VA because of students not attending classes and still getting paid. So I'm sorry about that, but that's the way it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing your homework assignment resources, and next week, or next class I should say, we will really start cranking them out. Take care, and I look forward to seeing your homework.